My name is Don Rahmes, and it's pronounced just like promise. My wife Gwen and I, as Joe said, attended over at Cornwell Drive for many years, and we saw this one being built, but then we moved before it opened for business. So we're glad to be here, though. It's like coming home. I remember Joe before he was an elder, before he was a deacon. It's a long, long time ago. He still plays a good golf game, I understand. He hasn't invited me out to go with him yet. We'll get there, I guess. Anyway, Gwen and I have been married for over 46 years. After a courtship that lasted 4 months, I believe this illustrates, and I'll tell you a story about that, but it'll illustrate how God steps in and makes his own plans, or makes his plans your plans. I graduated in 1976 from the University of Delaware. I don't know how many people know where Delaware is, but it's on the East Coast. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering. And in 1976, there were no jobs in civil engineering on the East Coast. And this is before LinkedIn and Google search and any of those tools that would tell you where the jobs are. So I didn't have a job, and I had applied to the Peace Corps. I was going to be a water treatment installer in Africa. And I was just waiting to get my application accepted. And a friend of mine who lived in Houston said he needed a ride home. And I didn't have much on my agenda while I was waiting for that application to get back. So I gave him a ride. And back in 1976, there weren't a whole lot of interstates. It took us 2.5 days of hard driving to get there. I'd never been off the East Coast. I'd been up and down the East Coast as a boy, but I'd never been off the East Coast. And going to Houston, Texas in 1976 was a culture shock, to say the least. Cowboys, pickups, and chicken fried everything. It was a good time. But I went there. The other thing that was different is there were 3 pages, not 3 entries, but 3 pages of want ads looking for entry-level engineers in the Houston Post. I'll never forget that. I was really happy. I interviewed for 2 days, got a job offer from a company called Johnson Testers to go to Williston, North Dakota to work for an oil field service company called Johnson Testers. I didn't know anything about the oil field, and I didn't know anything about Johnson Testers or North Dakota, but it was a good job and they offered a good salary. So I loaded up and went to Williston, North Dakota. They gave me a good base salary. It was, back in 1976, it was a great salary. It was $25,000, which when you look at 25 cents for a 16-ounce bottle, not liter, but glass bottle of Coke, and you look at 45 cents a gallon gas, and you look at $3.50 for a large pepperoni pizza, I had everything I needed. So we went to Williston, worked a lot of hours in the field. And what I just said, thought was a good salary, but we sat down one day and did the calculation of how much we were making per hour. It wound up being 80 cents an hour. So it was a lot of hours, and it was a good education. But I was there for about a year. I got there in June and left in March. In Williston, it starts snowing about November 1st, and you don't see the ground again until sometime in March. I went to Rock Springs, Wyoming, another garden spot. Beautiful country, but it's hard on people. Then I was transferred to Pampa, Texas. Still worked a lot of hours. Pampa is, I'm sure everybody knows, is in the Panhandle. When I'm speaking to people from the East Coast, it's like, where's that? They think I said Tampa. But anyway, I went to Pampa, Texas. And I didn't have much social life. I was looking for any opportunity I could to socialize. And I'd had a bank account at the First National Bank of Pampa. And there was a drive-up teller there that seemed nice. And I figured I'd get the courage up to ask her to go to lunch with me. So I drove up to the drive-up teller. I'd worked up my speech, and she wasn't there. But there was an even prettier girl there. So I said, well, I'm not going to waste this opportunity. So I'm as outgoing as I am. I'm really nervous around, especially pretty women. But I went up in my best voice. I mumbled, "Hi, my name's Don. Would you like to go to lunch?" And believe it or not, she said yes. I don't know if she was really hungry or she felt sorry for me, but we went to lunch and went to Taco Bell in Pampa, Texas. They've torn that down now. But we went to Taco Bell, I think I had a burrito, but 4 months later we got married, and we've been married 46 years. We have a daughter, Katie, who lives in outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Her husband's in the Air Force. And we have a son, Will. Oh, she has 2 grandsons, a 17-year-old and a 6-year-old. We have a son, Will, who lives in Edmond, Oklahoma, and he has a grandson. He's been married to his wife for 26 years. And they have a son, 16-year-old, named Isaac. That it shows you the just the plans that I made were one way, and God had another plan in mind. His plan obviously worked out a lot better than the plan I had. Does everyone remember, or does anyone remember the first Bible verse they memorized? Mine was John 3:16. And it's the reason I memorize that because the Sunday school teacher in North Carolina in the Southern Baptist Church, that's what you did. The Sunday school teacher required the 5th and 6th grade class to memorize a few Bible verses, but the one I remember is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That's the King James Version, because that's what I memorized. So that's a great verse, a good one to start with. Does anybody else, I saw a lot of heads nodding. John 3:16 was pretty well the first one that most people memorize. Is there any other that when you were young that you had to memorize?
I worked for the hard stuff, John 11:35, Jesus wept.
Joe, that's good. You got that? Is that the King James Version, or is that? That's good. That's good. How about what's a recent Bible verse you've memorized? Mine's Psalm 139. I haven't gotten all the way through that yet, but Psalm 139 is a verse I'm going to be speaking on this morning, and we're talking about God's omniscience. He knows everything. There's nothing he doesn't know. God's omnipresence. He's always with us, no matter where you go. And his omnipotence. He's all-powerful. He can do anything. I heard this verse on a radio program, and it really struck me. The book of Psalms was written for their worship poems for the people of Israel. They used them in their worship services. The first psalm was written in 1410 BC. That was written by Moses, and it's Psalm number 90. 73 of the Psalms were written by David. 10 were written by Asaph. 12 were written by Korah. Solomon, Moses, Heman, a grandson of Samuel, and a singer in David's court, and Ethan, a Levitical musician, also wrote one. There are a number of other anonymous songs that we're not sure who wrote them, but they were used over that 900-year history. They just grew, and that's what the Israel people used. I'm going to read Psalm 139 if I can, when I get to it here. You know, these phones are great they're convenient. Psalm 139, this is the New International Version. You know, that's the amazing thing. Anymore, when I memorize Scripture or read Scripture, I read the New International Version, but if I'm studying, I read the English Standard Version. And I have a cousin who won't read anything but the King James Version no matter what. There's no other version in the Bible for him. Psalm 139, you have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Where were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I'm still with you. If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts, and lead me in the way everlasting. When I see words like perceive, know, comprehend, it reminds me that God never said, wow, I didn't expect that. There's nothing we can do that he didn't already know. When Adam and Eve gave in to temptation in the garden, when Satan rebelled against his sovereignty, when Peter denied him 3 times, when you lose your patience or temper when dealing with a rebellious child or a needy relative or an annoying acquaintance, when you give in to a temptation, whether it's jealousy, lust, greed, covetousness, anger, pride, or any other sin, with God there are no secrets or surprises. C.S. Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity that God sees our lives like a line on a piece of paper. He sees the beginning and he sees the end, and he knows that whole line. We're in the middle of that line somewhere, and we can sometimes look back and remember. The older I get, the less I remember. But we get on that line, we can look back and see what happened in the past. But God knows perfectly what happened in the past. He knows what's going to happen in the future. There's no secrets or nothing that he doesn't know. Another analogy of what God sees or how God sees our lives is a laboratory scientist looking at a maze and a rat going through the maze. God sees all the choices, the paths that we could take, but he knows which ones we're going to take before we get there. My children remember a lot of things that I did when they were younger. They have vivid recollections of it. I don't remember that so much. My friends and my cousins and my old high school friends remember things that we did. And again, my memory's not so good. But God, again, remembers everything that happened in the past and everything that happened in the future. So there's no secrets. He makes opportunities for us. Ephesians 2:10 is a familiar verse. I'm going to turn to that. We are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. God knows that he's given us opportunities to do good works. And he also knows which good works we didn't do. And he knows which ones. That doesn't mean, just because we don't take advantage of an opportunity that he puts before us, does not mean that he's not going to prepare more opportunities for us. And he will. He'll keep us in mind, or keep our talents in mind when he prepares things for us to do. But it's up to us to recognize those opportunities. I look back at night after I've had a day and look at an opportunity. I could have said this to that person, or I could have done this for that person, or I could have taken that burden or shared that burden. And I have regrets at night during my prayer time. But I know that God is not going to give up on me. He knows what I will say and what I will not say, as it says in 139:16. Before word is on my tongue, he knows it completely. Before word is on my tongue, he knows it completely. There's no surprise there. He knows my heart and the motivations of my heart. He knows my spirit. He knows my weaknesses and my strengths. He knows my secret thoughts, thoughts that I don't want anyone to know. Embarrassing thoughts, prideful thoughts, loving thoughts, humble thoughts, lustful thoughts, covetous thoughts, helping thoughts, vengeful thoughts, happy thoughts, angry thoughts, sinful thoughts, godly thoughts, compassionate thoughts. He knows everything that goes on my head, but there's some things I wish he didn't know. Thoughts that go through your mind when you see a homeless person on the street that you've seen the same homeless person there for months with the same sign. When you see a car broken down on the side of the road, an opportunity. When you when you see people in need, when you don't do anything, God sees that, and he knows what I should do. He knows what I didn't do, but he still cares for me, and he still loves me. That's all that matters. Luke 12:6-7 are a good example of what things that God knows. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. And then go over to Matthew 10:29. Again, are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. The thoughts are the main way that Satan tempts us. He's not going to come up and do something physical to you, but he will place thoughts in our minds that will tempt us and will cause us to question our faith, our strength, our belief. He knows our minds, and he knows where our weaknesses are. A friend of mine has thought a lot about predestination. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that term or thought about that term. But if you turn to, if you look at Psalms 139:16, he knows your, get to that, sorry. Sometimes these phones are not that handy. Psalm 139:16. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Before one of them came to be. I have a friend that we talk about predestination periodically, and she believes that God knows before you're born whether you will be saved or not. God knows everything. He knows you're going to have choice. He gives us free will. We can make any choice we want. But God knows that whether our salvation will be accomplished or not. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. I want to look at a verse like this. But before all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Also have Ephesians 1:4-5. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and will. Then skipping down to verse 10. In him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will. God's will be done in our lives, no matter what choices we make. Tom?
You want to have some discussion?
Sure, I'm always open. We gotta fill some time here, so.
I struggle between understanding between foreordained or foreknown.
Now that's interesting.
God knows that according to the scripture, but did he ordain that? Or did he just know it's going to happen?
When you say ordained, you mean will that it happen? Yeah. That's an interesting point. Anyone else got any? Yeah.
It seems to me, just from the study I've done, that the ordained refers more to Jesus and the fact that he prepared the way for everybody and anybody to come to him, rather than God pointing to individuals and saying, you're saved, you're lost, you're like that, making personal assignments. And he knows what we'll do.
Yeah.
But the ordination is the plan that Jesus formed and put in place for me to be able to make a decision.
Yeah. There's a difference between being ordained and known. The ordination that Jesus did for us is different than being ordained to being known. God's not saying you have to do this, or he didn't create you for that, but he knows what you're going to do. Did I get that right, Glenn?
He ordained Jesus to come and to prepare the way for us.
Availability.
That is done and set in stone. That is ordained by God. The only way to get to it.
Only way is good. The only way God set Jesus up to set up a way for us to get to him, and that's the only way to get to him is through Jesus.
And to me, that's preordination,
Yeah, that's predestination.
predestination.
Yes, sir.
You know, I don't think it matters much. We have free will. God gives us information. We know how to live our lives for him or him. Now, I don't think God will ever make somebody do something they don't want to do.
All right.
So he gives us opportunity. And so it's whether we want to follow him. He probably knows what we're going to do, but he doesn't drive us to do that.
That's the question was, or the statement was, that we've got free will, and God knows what we're going to do, but he doesn't drive us to do that. It's something that he allows us free will and free choice. Yes, sir?
When Paul writes in Ephesians, he's talking to Christians. He's not talking to people outside of it. They may come into Christ later on, but at the same time, he's talking with us right now in this building. We are predestined. He tells us that happened already. But there are some evil things going on in the church, too. There are things that they have to fix.
I think I think I see your point, that he's talking to Christians here. Paul is writing to Christian Ephesians, and they have choices and things that they need to do, or that they will do. And your last point again was. What? Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. What I believe he was saying was we're going to have a lot of temptations, and there's going to be some Christians that give in to these temptations or are more susceptible to the temptations, and we need to be more concerned about that than we do about predestination. Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Joe or Rod?
Some of the thing with predestination, though, I have a friend that believed he was predestined to go to heaven. And it doesn't make any difference how he lived his life.
But that's an interesting conversation.
Do what?
I bet that's an interesting conversation.
Well, he was with the mafia in Detroit for about 15 years. And his lifestyle has changed some. He goes to church every Sunday, but he knows he's going to heaven. But my understanding, he does a lot of things against God's will, but it doesn't make any difference, because when he gave his life to Jesus when he was 12 or 13, he's got it made. He's going to heaven. He was predestined to go to heaven. So therefore,
Yeah.
some people, if they're brought up that way,
Mm-hmm.
that's a pretty easy thing to hang on to.
Yeah. Joe was
I
saying.
do whatever I want to, and it doesn't make any difference, because I was predestined.
Joe was saying he has a friend that's had lives kind of a sketchy life, not outside Christianity, but he believed when he was 12 or 13 years old that he was saved, and that it doesn't really matter what he does after that, because he made that decision at 12 or 13. So he goes to church on Sundays, but he does a lot of things that are outside the teaching. Just a second, Dennis. Rod?
What I was going to say was that lends itself to the philosophy that really paramount in Christianity today, and that is once saved, always saved. It's going to say.
Mm-hmm.
People sometimes do just exactly what Joe said. I mean, they don't have to be in Bible study. They don't have to be part of an organized religious group.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to heaven. And that's what they believe.
And that's a good point that Rod makes, is that it doesn't, after you're saved, it doesn't matter what you do, you're still going to heaven. Because if you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior and you accept Him, then you're going to heaven. Dennis? Yep. The point that he's making is that we think sometimes that we know what God knows, and that's not necessarily true. We don't know what God knows. God knows everything, and we have choices that we need to make that could affect our salvation or could affect our future.
Second Peter 3:9, where God says it, where it said, He is patient with us, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. But when each one of us is born, we have an opportunity. Nobody is born with a stamp on their head that says, know what you're going to do, you're going to.
That's a good point. She referenced 1 Peter 3:9, which said that it's not God's will that anyone should not be saved or should be condemned to hell. But we don't get a stamp on our head that says you're going to hell when you're born. And that's an interesting premise, though. Did God know when we were born and when He formed us in our mother's womb what our ultimate salvation was? Or is there something that God didn't know? And does free will have anything to do with that choice one way or the other? Rod, I'm glad you put that up. No. Mm-hmm.
It always bothered me that Moses, through God, dealing with Pharaoh, Scripture says God hardened his Pharaoh's heart.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about predestination, was that always the plan? I mean, it looks like it was. But, it's difficult. It happened every time. So it's such a difficult concept to internalize, knowing that God can harden your heart.
That's a good point. We're talking about Pharaoh having his heart hardened by God when Moses came to make a plea for them to release the Israelites. Then God stepped in and did force that action. He hardened Pharaoh's heart. But did he know what Pharaoh was going to do before he hardened his heart, or did he know he was going to have to harden his heart in order to get Pharaoh to participate in God's plan? Gwen, do you have something? The point she made was that God puts people in our lives that guide us or teach us or show us. They increase our character. It's something that it's part of God's plan, that He knows who He's going to put in our life and what opportunities, whose life I'm going to be put in, or who's going to be put in my life to make a difference or to share some wisdom or share an experience. Yep. Sorry.
This way I've got another destination. Like you've got a train headed to heaven and you've already got a ticket ready for it. Still got to choose to get on.
Yeah.
And God has laid out a path for you. So what He wants, here it is available. You still got to choose to do it. We do the same thing with children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
the point was that God's predestination, it's like a train going to heaven, and you have a ticket, but you still have to make the decision to get on. And it's like you have children that you want them, you have plans for them, and they don't necessarily follow those plans, but it's still a plan that you have and a hope that you have. Point is made, sorry, were you done? The point is made that, again, God knows what the past was, He knows what our future is. We can't see it, but it's God's ordained that it's going to happen. Yes, sir?
You know, bottom line is, what we do, what we personally do that determines who we are. Not what somebody else tries to make us or pitches us as what we do. We also know that according to scriptures, those that are ignorant will be punished less than those that do wrong. So, but it really comes down to what we personally do in our life determines where we're going to go to heaven or we're going to go to hell.
That's good.
Not what anybody else does.
The point was that what we do, what we as individuals do, determines our salvation, whether we're going to go to heaven or going to go to hell. It's not what anybody else does or anybody else exposes us to. It's what we do. Yes, sir, Tom?
It's risky to use the word do. It's the choice that we make. We have choices to make, and the doing was done by Jesus.
Well,
I realize that's kind of nitpicking.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the point was made that it's not what we do so much as the choice that we make. That's what determines our ultimate outcome. And doing and choosing are kind of semantics. And it's just a question of what we choose or what we do that makes a difference in our salvation. Yeah, God, I think that, there's a couple more verses I wanted us to read. Romans 8:29. Let's start with 28. And we know in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. And this is 29. For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those He predestined, He also called. Those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified. So again, and this, again, I think is my opinion. I do believe that God knows when we're born whether we're going to be saved or not. I know He knows the choice. I don't limit God. I don't think that I feel comfortable limiting God and saying, you don't know that. I think God knows everything. There's nothing. The point was made that the future is told in the Bible, and He wrote the Bible from the beginning, and that there's no escaping that. I think we can all believe that is God's Word. And it's our choice to believe the one He sent, the one that God sent. did he know you when he created you in your mother's womb? The question was, who did God foreknow? Who did he know ahead of time? And in the scripture, in Psalms, we see that God knit us together in our mother's womb and knew all the days preordained for us to walk in before one of them occurred. So it's a very, I'm not going to say a sticky subject, but it's a subject that should give us comfort and not give us pause, knowing that God knows our ultimate destination. And if we love him, then that's really all that matters. We love him, believe him, and obey him. And that's what we as Christians try to do. I had a couple more points I was going to make. We talked about his omniscience, but we haven't talked about his omnipotence or his omnipresence. Instead of getting into that, we can finish this up, if you don't mind, next week. I'm also going to talk some next week about God's purpose for our lives. So that kind of ties into this, but I wanted to expand on that a little more and go to the purpose. I would like for us all to remember that God is omniscient, he is omnipresent, and he is omnipotent. He has power, he has knowledge, and he's everywhere. We can't escape him, and that should give us feelings of comfort. Again, I'll finish this up again next week because there's too much to really cover in 2 minutes. So I appreciate your attention, and I especially appreciate the feedback. And I'm sorry, and I'm like Joe, my hearing is not so good. I get most of it. I brought my interpreter this morning. Gwen does a lot of interpreting for me. I'll look if I don't understand something, I'll look over her with a vacant look, deer in the headlights, and she normally tells me what I missed. So we're a good team. Thank you for your attention.